MLB.com chose 5 writers: MLB pipeline prospects Jim Callis, Jonathan Mayo, national reporter Jesse Sanchez, and analysts Sarah Langs and Mike Petriella to participate in a draft to each select 5 players under 25 to come up with a 25 under 25 list. There are the results right there of the draft. You see Juan Soto went first, Fernando Tatis Jr. went second, and Ronald Acuna Jr. went third. How about Wander Franco, who we've yet to see of the Tampa Bay Rays? He went 4th overall. All right, so if we set aside those first 3 picks, Acuna, Tatis Jr., and Soto, those seemingly are already on another level. So you set those aside, Bill Ripken. What players, aside from those 3, under 25, are you choosing to build your franchise around?
Well, look, I don't think in some cases you can go wrong. I think it's interesting, though, in the draft, the way it was, some guys haven't played in the big leagues yet.
Right.
That would be picked, because there's still some young guys that have played in the big leagues. There's one guy who has my eye, and that's Bo Bichette.
Okay.
Because this dude, when he came up, made this splash. I think 13 extra base hits in his first 11 games of his career, which is pretty impressive. And I think what speaks a little bit of volume on this is the Blue Jays went out and got Marcus Semien, brought him in for a year. And I thought the defensive kind of positioning move would be I'd take Bo Bichette and move him over to second. Toronto didn't do it that way. They're right now holding on to the idea of Bichette playing short.
Yes.
Semien, who's already played and established himself as a pretty good shortstop in the big leagues, they're moving him to second base the way it looks at. So that kind of piques my interest because the Blue Jays know what they have. And I just think that we, with some of these great stars, and rightfully so, Tatis is what he's done, Soto, we've talked about Acuna Jr., those are the big 3 that you mentioned. But there's still some pretty good guys on that board that are still young, and I think Bo Bichette, he might have a monster year this year.
I like that name, and as you said, probably kind of gets lost in the shuffle league-wide. I'm going to go with Luis Robert.
I'm not mad at you.
The Chicago White Sox. First of all, he's got a great name, La Pantera, the Panther. For those of you not as bilingual as yours truly.
Well, we need a Plesac out here to help.
Yeah, absolutely. But remember what he did last season. First of all, entering his age 23 season, won a Gold Glove in 2020, tied for the Major League lead with 7 outs above average, led the majors in average exit velocity on homers at over 109 miles per hour. But Bill Ripken finished 2020 in a little bit of a slump. So I'll be eager to see how he responds and how he looks. His manager, Tony La Russa, is already comparing him to Mike Trout. Frank Thomas, a Hall of Famer, says this guy's a 6-tool player. Forget 5-tool, he's a 6-tool player.
It's funny because you said already, comparing him to Mike Trout. Mike Trout was like the age 25, already had 6 years in the big leagues and won the MVP a few times right there. So that's pretty large things. But I get what he's talking about because when you see certain things on a baseball field, they can jump off the board at you. And I think that's probably what Tony's dealing with right when he sees him walk in. When you're sitting there, we used to say instead of exit velocity, it sounds different off his bat.
Yeah.
So you can close your eyes in certain camps and you can tell who's taking BP that day. You know from when the guy walks out of the cage, when he gets in the cage. And I'll guarantee when he's hitting it, and Tony's going back to those kind of thoughts. When he had Canseco and McGuire hitting, that he goes, I know what sounds like. That's probably where he's going.